On today's episode of The Glue Guys, Brian.
We were right, Mike. We were right. We were the most right. Is that true?
We'll talk about that coming up. Welcome back to The Glue Guys. This is Mike here. Say hello, Brian. Check us out on Twitter at BKGlueGuys. NetsDaily.com. The Athletic. Get yourself behind the paywall at theathletic.com/glueguys. A subsidiary of the New York Times. Ryan.
Michael.
KYRIE IRVING is back. Woo!
On a thinly veiled probationary player option. We got him, Mike. We played hardball.
Clean sweep.
Yeah.
We did it. Yes, this is our day late emergency pod. I apologize. It was my anniversary yesterday.
Wow.
KYRIE is such an evil person. No, just KYRIE was so
he messed up your anniversary. He
messed up our anniversary.
But I can see you're still in the haunted lake. That's beautiful.
Yeah, so we've relocated to our compound in upstate New York. And so for the YouTube audience, you'll get a great shot of this absolutely terrifying bedroom.
Big recommend for a movie you never watch.
A scary movie.
Wait. Now I can't even remember the name of it. It's like Lake House.
Unwatchables.
God, I gotta look it up now.
So we were joking with Mina Kimes, friend of the show, about doing a podcast series called The Unwatchables, and it's just like the rewatchables.
Night House.
For the ringers.
Night House is what it's called.
I'm getting goosebumps as we.
No, it's good. It's like What Lies Beneath, but a little bit more. It's good. You'll like it.
It's What Lies Beneath Her.
It's what. Yeah.
Hi-oh. That's what she said.
Let's not bury the lead, Mike. We got news.
KYRIE IRVING has graciously continued to grace us with his presence. He has opted in to his 1-year deal with the Nets. He is back. It seems like KD is back. Ben Simmons is still posting local photos within Brooklyn. The Nets are back, baby. The Nets are back.
He's just making his rounds with a new pack of school children, just leading them from park to park.
Okay, that doesn't sound that bad.
All right. Well, who did that? Did I do that or did you do that,
You
Mike?
did that. You did that. Lead them from pack to pack. Okay, we have a lot to talk about. I mean, we'll get to the heart of the meat of the issue, the heart and the meat of the issue at the very beginning, and then we're going to do winners and losers of this opt-in-ageddon, the KYRIE saga that was. And, of course, the whole time, I'll start with this. Does this feel like the situation is settled?
No.
Like, are you at a place of comfort and understanding where we are? Or are you like, there's like 8 more shoes to drop? There's an octopus level amount of shoes to drop.
There's like I'll put it like a 15% chance that we just come out of the gates crushing, a 1 seed all throughout the regular season, and then a long, deep, comforting playoff run that leads to a obvious, re-sign extension for all of our best players. There's a chance of that, Mike. But having watched the Nets for 20 years now or whatever, I know better than that, Mike. I know better. I would adjust that higher if it were not for all of that experience that I have. So it doesn't feel like it's a closed book, to your point.
This is a massive win for Joe Tsai and Sean Marks.
Huge.
Right? Like, an unbelievable, in modern NBA times, and I mean modern as in like the LeBron era, where there's player movement, the, players run however they want to go in the league. They can decide where they want to play. This is the rare circumstance. I think it's the only circumstance where a guy as good as KYRIE was told by management, we're not giving you money.
Yeah.
And then he was allowed to go search for a new home. And then those other people were like, yeah, we're not going to give you money either. This is like unprecedented in modern NBA history.
This does feel like I don't know if you read Matt Sullivan's book, but it was the whole arc of it is about the player empowerment movement from start to finish, and starts with the LeBron, announcement to Miami, and then it sort of like ends with that era of the first KD-KYRIE year of Brooklyn Nets. And
the dynasty that was promised, right?
Yeah, the dynasty, yes. And this feels like a more fulfilling sort of end chapter to that kind of to that part of the hypothesis or whatever. It's like, in some ways, this has been a big referendum on the player empowerment movement, as like players kind of creep their way into more managerial positions while they're actually playing. Is that, how is there any way to push back on it? Is it worth it to push back? I mean, the jury's not out on is it worth it, I guess, ultimately, but like, this is at least one clear moment in time where there has been significant pushback, and we'll see if that's better or worse, because that's not decided. But one lone data point out there in the pushing back against the player empowerment movement, which, we're agnostic about. We're just here watching from the side. We got a podcast. We're here to talk about it. Player empowerment, managerial empowerment, whatever. We don't care. Just here to watch. But, because people on Twitter, rooting for management is lame. It's like, we're not really rooting for management. It's just like, we're a fan of the team, and we just want what's best for the team. It happens to be that in this one case, it seems like a little bit of what we're thinking is in alignment with what they're thinking, in that, like, Kyrie does need a little bit of pushback at some point. He just needs a little pushback.
And again, this is a huge win for the Nets overall. Now, there's a lot that can go wrong. We can get into that, right? Like, Kyrie could he says, see you in the fall. I will wait till he sees us in the fall. Like, Kyrie's very much the personality that could completely use this as the reason why he doesn't need to show up to play basketball games on a consistent basis. Of course, so that would tank his future value. I mean, ultimately, if he wants that commitment, he wants that 4 or 5 year max, whatever it is. Like, him playing basketball games is going to help him get that, and him being a protester in terms of basketball, abstaining and boycotting basketball won't help him. This is a huge win for the Nets, but it is like, we're still going to kind of, there's going to be some, not negativity, but critiquing and criticism within this episode, because it is so bizarre.
Yeah.
This whole scenario that had to play out.
Do you think that there's like any part of, is any amount of this reality check felt by Kyrie on any level? Like the fact that they, went out for, I guess, a day and like, called some other teams, and like that didn't pan out.
Can you say your joke on Twitter that I was afraid that
Mike called me in a sweaty panic over my tweet about.
By the way, we're gonna do some impromptu Glue Guys theater coming up.
We are
on this episode.
I'm excited. He called me in a sweaty panic because I tweeted out that it was like, shout out to Kyrie's stepmom for having exactly 0 other NBA execs numbers in her phone, which is helpful if you're wanting to retain Kyrie Irving on a player option but not give him an extension. It's just helpful. That's all.
And I think we need to articulate this point. When a guy like Kyrie, who has that decision to opt in or opt out, and then the team, the Brooklyn Nets, allows that player to say, go out there, find yourself a deal, and maybe we'll make a trade with that team, right? It then becomes almost like the player is trading himself.
Yeah.
And Kyrie's having his stepmom, who is not an NBA agent. I mean, she is now officially.
Yeah.
It damages. It could be if Kyrie picked up, if he had Warren Buffett as his agent. It's nothing to do with it being a stepmom. It just is like an outsider to the overall area. Like if he had a typical agent, Rich Paul, Leon Rose when he was with CAA, they could have figured all this out many, many weeks ahead of time, and it would have been done.
Yeah,
I think it damaged Kyrie to have an unusual situation.
Sure.
No shots at family. Love family.
Love family. Love, and in this case it did.
Actually, I hate family. No.
Whoa, Mike. There goes another.
I always sympathize with the villains in Fast and Furious.
There goes another onion layer. Jesus, flying off. They're flying off. Yeah, in this case it definitely would have benefited them. The Rich Pauls of the world, they would have had a few drinks with, Vivek over the years and known where to land them. So, there's
Kyrie probably would be in Philly right now, of all places. I mean,
Yeah.
if we're gonna, it would probably be, and then Tobias Harris would be a Brooklyn Net.
a lot of good
What a
memes.
world.
Anyways,
You asked a question that I was going to ask you too, which is this a wake up call for Kyrie? I don't think so. Like, I don't think there's any ounce of him that thinks I need to change my ways. I think maybe there's a chip on the shoulder. I think that the contractual situation that Kyrie finds himself in, where he's stuck to a 1-year deal, he surveyed around the league to see if people wanted him. It seems like the only team that he wanted and wanted him were the Lakers, which are in a more desperate situation than the Nets are even. you know, I'm sure if Kyrie was in. So the thing is also is like next offseason, there's more cap space for a lot of teams. So there's more of an opportunity for him to find that money. But I would think it should be, it's not, but it should be pretty startling that someone as good as Kyrie was basically like to the rest of the NBA, hey, I'm available. I will play. I'll maybe even do the mid-level exception, but I'll play, and then you can give me my contract. And everyone, all 29 other teams were like, we're good. You know, we are quite good. So do you think it's a wake-up call for Kyrie, or do you think he's going to continue being a normal person or a different thinker?
Well, he's definitely not going to be. I mean, per his announcement, that's off the table. So, I mean, and who would want a normal? I mean, I don't even. Normies are the worst, Mike. I mean, and I don't mean that as an offense to you. I don't exceptional normie.
I am the most normcore in the world. So I really.
But part of what being an exceptional normie for you is that there's again many layers to your onion. The normie facade is we see right through you.
It's a mask I put on.
Yeah.
In deep down, I'm just
you're a disturbed person.
Yes.
And so wait, what was the question?
Is this a wake up call for Kyrie?
I wanna say yes.
By the way, just for the record, Brian rolled back his eyes deeper into his soul than I've ever seen, trying to find the answer to this one. Poltergeisted.
Yeah. This is again putting on my dime store psychologist hat, which I haven't taken off, I don't think, in years now, actually. But he seems to be, to my ears and eyes, particularly spite driven. So I feel like this is just another landmine waiting. I hate to say it, and I know that people don't want to hear this because this is a day for celebration. Everyone's should be happy,
and we'll celebrate. But yes,
we're going to celebrate. We're going to pop the bottles, and it's a definite win for everybody. And I really hope it does feel like, okay, maybe like I do need to sort of at least.
As you're saying this, I'm laughing.
I know.
Like,
tiptoe
take any of this to heart.
Tiptoe into these pressers a little bit differently with a little bit like less aggro. You're all puppets and pawns energy. Like
here's what. There's no way. Like classically in the NBA players' relationship with the media, what we would see in 3 months' time is like a big meaty feature from Kevin Arnovitz or Jackie McMullen talking about the new Kyrie. How this was a wake-up moment for him, and he's rededicating himself to basketball, that he's had a tough few years. The pandemic really affected everyone. Mm-hmm. Like, that would definitely be within that story. And that Kyrie's ready to refocus on basketball, kick ass, win a championship. That would be what would usually happen. But Kyrie is not going to do that.
Yeah.
He doesn't think he doesn't think he's ever done anything wrong, ultimately. And he in no way... He thinks he's being persecuted in some form or fashion, that he is a leader, he's an outside-the-box thinker, and that the system's trying to is aligning against him. And he is wrong. He is wrong. But hey, he's a Brooklyn Nets.
Yeah. It's tough being super duper anti-establishment all the time, 360 degrees, because occasionally the establishments do pay your bills.
That's the thing. The establishment ultimately just wants to give you $250 million if you play basketball. Like, that's all the establishment wants in this case.
And look, you want to live in a cabin in the woods, wipe your ass at $250 million? I'm here for it. I'm here for that, and I'm ready for it. But the combination of maximizing every cent plus being anti-establishment, that's where you're going to get some conflict, Mike. That's where the rubber hits the road a bit.
Kyrie thinks he's like in Squid. Like he thinks the NBA is Squid Game. Like he thinks that he's being put through a torturous, murderous situation in order to get that piggy bank of money at the top of their bunk bed room that they lived in Squid Game. And really, what the NBA is Brewster's Millions. They're just giving away cash. They're just like, here's money, and if you spend more money and do the thing you're supposed to do, which in Brewster's case was to spend all of his money, you'll get more money.
But here's the thing: is they're going to call you an establishment, bootlicker, Mike, with that kind of mentality, because that's how you get all the Nike deals, all the dip, but you gotta toe the company line, and that's part of where the other part of the rubber hits the road with anti-establishment, stuff. You don't want to carry those messages.
I just want to put out a funny quote before we go to break. This is what Kyrie said right after the season. Okay, this is about his role within the franchise. When I say I'm here with Kevin, I think that it really entails us managing this franchise together along Joe Tsai and Sean Marks and just our group of family members that we have in our locker room and our organization.
Oh, boy.
Boy.
Oh, boy. that was part of – I didn't even see that. That was part of the same announcement?
No, that was what he said right after the season. Remember when he had his press conference and they're like, "Are you going to be back?" And he was like, "Yeah, I'm going to manage the franchise with Kevin Durant." Well,
yeah,
that didn't happen. Let's go to break. Come back. We'll talk much more about Kyrie Irving. And we're back, Brian.
Okay.
Do you want to do Glue Guys Theater? Or you want to jump? You want to do winners and losers?
Coin toss. I mean, let's do winners and losers. Let's get the fans involved.
Okay. Winners and losers. Thank you, everyone. This is our. I was like, needs an intro.
It does need
winners and losers. We have some great emails, and I have some of my own. Winners and losers from Opt In Again.
Okay.
Winners and losers.
Do you have drops?
Let's go with the email first.
Do you have drops?
No,
not this. No late drops.
Vibes.
No late drops.
Yeah.
You're in the night house. First up is your boy Eddie Carson. Eddie Carson. I'm not going to do that. I can't do the whole thing. You guys deserve better, but Mike said it's Haunted Lake House, so what can I do? So, Ed Carson understood the assignment, and he just went right down the line here. Winners: Christian Winfield, Shams, Woj, Windhorst, NBA content creators in general. Mike, that's shout out to you and me.
That's us. The Glue Guys.
They all did their jobs and got their clicks. Yeah, boy. Actually, we didn't. weirdly light on the clicks for. Anyways, well, the pod did well. The YouTube got part of a weird algorithm. I think we'll get into that later. That's for the after show. TV appearances, podcast content, etc. Can't really think of anyone else who benefited from this saga. Losers: Nets fans, Nets Twitter. I would say Nets fans, maybe. Nets Twitter, definitely. Nets Twitter was firing off take after take, Mike, and they got fucking BTFO'd. You'd think as a 20-plus year Nets fan, I'd be used to this, but like everyone, I've been doom scrolling nonstop for the past week. Also, someone needs to remind Nets Twitter, we all root for the same team. Incomplete, but trending towards losers. Kai, KD, Marks, Psy. I say incomplete because this will all depend on how next season plays out. Seems like the Nets won the battle, but the war is far from over. All four of these men are letting their egos blind them from the fact that what's best for all of them is to work together. So it goes on. But thank you, Eddie Carson. Mike, do you agree that Nets fans and Nets Twitter were the big loser holders in this?
So I say I put it as winner social media in general, because even when Kyrie opted in and he texted Shams Charania about it, we have to talk about this. Now, I have a great thread about it on Twitter. Kyrie texted this: normal people keep the world going, but those who dare to be different lead us into tomorrow. I've made it my decision to opt in. See you in the fall, lowercase f, A11 even.
Can I see
Mike Schur,
Yeah.
The creator of Parks and Rec, The Good Place, a very smart man,
Shout out.
tweeted out, I've been reading that text, I've reading that line for about a half an hour, and I still have no clue what it means. Brian, what does this mean?
Can I say that this is a little bit of a shout out to normal people? Like shout out to normal people.
First time he's respected a normal
Shout out to
person.
normal people for keeping the world going. Big shout out.
Hey,
Yeah.
normal people just don't get the credit they deserve.
Yeah.
Big time.
So Pat, if
So
you
wait,
identify,
is he a daring to be different?
if you
Or is he
identify
a
as normal,
normal
pat yourself on the back. Just take a moment because Kyrie's giving you your moment in the sun. And then the other part is, of course, it seems very self-explanatory. Does it really? I mean,
Well, what's confusing is that Kyrie took a massive L, but yet he's claiming that he's a daring to be different mindset that is leading a society into the future.
yeah.
Like, he failed. Like, I don't know what he's trying to
I
want
want to make sure that we don't do this, Mike. I do want to make sure that we don't like.
He walked back to Daddy
Like-
Joe, Daddy Joe's side.
like,
he walked back with
here's-
his tail between his legs.
Here's
Brian.
what I don't want is for like people to be
Big
like
Daddy Joe coming
chanting
down with his
like-
lacrosse stick and his Alibaba stock and said, "Kyrie, you can come back home.
right.
It's only a one-night stay, my friend.
My big
It's the
fear.
opposite of Hotel California, it's the Hotel Brooklyn. You can come here, but you only can stay for one night." And I'm strumming my Joe Walsh guitar.
I just don't want there to be like player option chants at TD Garden next year. You know, like that's, I don't want,
Opt in.
Yeah. like I don't want this to be seen as an L. It's and this is just me. You know, now putting on my Nets on top of my dime store psychologist hat. Now there's a Nets fan hat. There's just a Mitchell and Ness
Like an
snapback
Abe
on
Lincoln.
top.
It's an Abe Lincoln size
Yeah.
hat with a big Nets logo.
Exactly. And I just don't want it to be, you know, to further divide this thing even further and have it being a rallying cry for other
How magnanimous of
teams'
you, Brian.
fan bases. Because, you know, here's what the best path forward is. Kyrie comes in, plays 72 games, crushes it, and we have a nice deep playoff run, right? That would be great. What?
Stop thinking that that's going to happen.
I'm leaving the door open for it to happen, Mike. It's a new leaf. I'm turning over a new leaf.
Okay. I shouldn't be so
You're
obstinate.
You're letting your onion layers show, okay? This is you're
very deep. I gotta close up these blooming onion over here. Tighten it up.
You are exposed and deep fried, my friend. But yeah. Anyways,
So-
I don't want it to be a
Daddy Joe. What
really
did you
want-
say to me on the phone? Tell me what he said to me on the phone.
I don't remember what you're talking about.
About
I literally don't remember what you're talking
okay, I can't even. You can't even hint to what you said on the phone.
about.
Okay.
Oh, I know what you're saying. Okay.
Yeah,
yes.
yeah. It's so funny.
Well, I'm not-
Okay. So winners and losers: Joe Tsai and Sean Marks.
Oh, in your mind.
And in my mind, Joe Tsai and Sean Marks, again, unprecedented situation. An NBA superstar, former NBA champion, one of the greatest players of his generation, says to a franchise, "I want all the money." And the franchise said no. And then he was like, "Yeah, but I want all the money." And they said no. And he's like, "Okay, I'm going to go find a trade." And they said, "Go find a trade." And he came back and was like, "I'll take a year of money."
Mm-hmm.
And that is what happened. That was Glue Guy's theater. That is what happened.
Yeah. I will say, like, you know, just as far as a negotiation goes, real credit goes out because it's an art form, you know, it's a real art form. And to just hold the line in the way that they did, there was never a wavering moment of you know, they just, I feel like they had this charted out on a calendar like 3 months ago, like exactly this timeline. That's how well executed. So people out there who are, you know, you can debate about what's best for the team, whether they should have done it or not. Let's assume that this is what they wanted and they got it. Credit to Sean Marks et al. For just executing at a high level on strategy and then execution, right? Fair to say?
So it is tough to figure out, and I'm going to ask you this question about what would have been a better solution here. It's tough to figure out exactly what the Nets offered. Like, I think the reports were out there that the Nets offered a 3-year deal on a max level, I think, which would have been opt-in for this year, a +2 on the end.
But so where I saw that originate from was like that Bobby Marks clip, and then it got aggregated and then spun out a million different ways. Like, I don't know if that ever came from that was like part of like the popular reporting. I don't know. You can correct me if that's wrong, but
No, I don't know. But what we know is that they did not want to offer a full max contract, right? So that would have been 5 years or whatever it would have been. They wanted him. I think they were. The reporting is at least that they offered something real. Like, they didn't just say like no, just opt in, right? I think the solution that they were offering was an in-between point between the full max and the 1 year opt-in. So I'm going to guess it's around 2 to 3 years.
I don't think that that's what. This is my own opinion. I don't think that that's what happened, but I'm just going to say that.
What do you think happened?
I think that they held the line of the player option. I think that there wasn't. I think if you have a counter offer like that, it just weakens your position.
Okay, I'm only basing it on what I thought I saw, but I think you could be correct. Okay, but do you think what is a better solution? Kyrie for this 1 year and then having no control over him at all, or giving him 3 years. Maybe he's a little bit happier, but you're at more risk. What do you actually think would have been the better solution? If let's say Kyrie took a 3-year extension. So he did this year and then 2 more years off of it. What do you think would have been better?
So I think that this is like a way for the Nets brass to wrest back some leverage from the situation. So by him signing
brass balls.
That's brass balls, you said it, buddy. That you get to wrest back some leverage in the situation.
Daddy Joe.
And there's like, by whatever it is, December or January, whatever the trade deadline is going to be. I don't know when it is, but there's like a very real, like, kind of other timeline that's now been activated about, like, okay, like, let's see what this first 3 to 4 months looks like. Make sure that, like, any of what we've kind of been trying to demonstrate with this making you sign a player option is being felt, and that, we don't know what goes on behind the scenes. We don't know how fractured their relationship is or isn't. It could be very peaceable on its face, and there's a lot of resentment just under the surface, Mike. I'm sure you know about that. Shots fired.
What the hell? I hate you.
And so that it gives them it puts the Nets now back in a position where they can control their fate a little bit more with the Kyrie Irving situation. So to everyone's point, this is by no means over. It's about a just regaining a little bit of leverage as you go into next season for what you want to do with the Kyrie Irving situation. And that's not to say that there isn't going to be another extension on top of this, and there very well could be, but it just puts the ball, like more decision-making options in the hands of the Nets into next season.
Yeah, and that's a key point. I mean, we're going to learn so much. This is the no excuses season coming up. Mm-hmm. Nothing can happen anymore that would sort of give the Nets cover. Like, if the Nets, it's not even like a championship or bust. It's just that this team needs to play basketball together. This is what they need to do. Play basketball together, form into a real team, a real, like, competitive team, and then try to win a champion. Just try to win a championship. That's all they have to do.
Yeah.
If they don't do that, if Kyrie disappears or Kevin Durant gets hurt or Steve Nash decides he wants to play in the World Cup and doesn't want to coach, then, then this thing is done. There's no, like, this, whatever this dynasty that never was happens, it's done. Yeah. So, and so then Kyrie can leave. The Nets would trade Kevin Durant, and they build around Ben Simmons and Cam Thomas.
Yeah. If by the trade deadline we're in like the 6th, 7th, 8th position in the East or something, it's going down. It is going down. This team needs to be then pretty much not blown up in terms of, like, they need to tank at the trade deadline, but because they don't even have their first round pick. Well, it's a swap situation, but it doesn't matter because the Rockets are going to suck. Yeah.
But this is it. How Kyrie plays, how Kevin responds to what's happening with Kyrie. Does Ben Simmons play? I'll bring up this tweet. We'll get back to winners and losers in a sec, 'cause I know people care about this. This is from Chris Mannix at Sports Illustrated, a very good basketball reporter. He said this, and I appreciate the perspective, but I will not fall for it. Kyrie, Kevin Durant, Ben Simmons, Joe Harris, and Seth Curry. Nets need some depth. Bruce Brown and Nick Claxton would help. But if healthy, that's a team that will absolutely contend for a title. Brian, I hate this thinking right now.
Mm-hmm.
I know he's not a Nets fan. He's actually a Boston guy. So even if he's a journalist, it's in his blood.
Yeah.
The lucky cells are still in his blood. This team does not deserve any benefit of the doubt. Okay? That is a very good team, right? On paper. This team has been very good on paper for years.
I'm bullish about it, but I always am, and we've tried to learn our lesson, Mike. I feel like this year was a year of growth for us personally, you and me.
It just destroyed any sense of childhood fandom that was attached to our bodies.
We're grizzled vets now. I feel like it really happened.
It's like the scene at the end of Deathly Hallows Part 2 when, like, the last bit of Voldemort is, like, killed within that magical train station that Harry Potter goes to. When he dies, spoiler alert for Harry Potter.
Mike, my brain, I just completely dissociate as soon as you say Deathly Hallows or whatever. Like, I'll snap back when you start talking about other things.
So you didn't have a childhood? Got it, Roger.
Mike, we were like 20 when that came out.
No, we were in elementary school.
When the movie?
when
Oh.
the book started to
no,
come
hell
out.
no.
Oh, I
Miss me with that.
Books.
Yeah.
No books. But so we could be excited, right, about Kyrie, Kevin Durant, Ben Simmons, Joe Harris, Seth Curry. Like, we could be excited. I'm not telling people not to be excited. I'm just saying, let's not put our expectations anywhere. Let's get evidence first. Let's do an evidence-based approach. Let's see them all show up for the preseason together. We don't know if Ben Simmons actually is going to be there. We don't know what Kyrie is going to do at all. Kevin Durant, we're pretty sure what he's going to do. Let's get there. Let's see it happen. Let's see the team form. And then we can get, like, super pumped about a championship run. Is that fair?
That's fair. That's fair to me.
Is that healthy?
That's healthy.
Let's do some more winners and losers from the email.
Next up is Cheerboy Glenn Y. Glenn Y. Hey, Glue Guys. I think our current...
Youngkin, governor of Virginia.
Is that too? Okay, cool. I think our current Twitter discourse leads us always planting our flag and defending one side or the other, but I'm going to go out on a limb and say everyone in this situation is at fault. Here we go, Glenn. Oh. First, on Kyrie, we wouldn't be in this situation to begin with if he wasn't liable to just disappear from the team if he gets upset about a world event. Second, Josiah and Sean Marks, the fact that they risked losing KD and Kyrie by alienating Kyrie is malpractice. Whoa, lose your license. I added that. They lucked into this solution, and it still feels like this will be our last year with KD and Kyrie unless they do a ton of work mending fences this season. You can't trade away all your culture players and then take a hardline stance on culture. Lastly, on to KD. KD needs to step up as a leader. I respect that he didn't want to interfere with Kyrie's contract talks, but there comes a time when all these leaks back and forth are detrimental to the team. If he could affect their ability to bring in win now free agents at the vet min or mid-level exceptions, this saga made the Nets look bad. As a leader, KD should have gotten all the parties together and at least told everyone to keep these disagreements in-house. Glad the saga is over, so on and so forth. Huge fan. Thanks, Glenn. Huge fan of you. Mike, KD. Let's zero in on the KD part of this. How do you feel about his whole role in this Michigasa?
It's very interesting, right? Because the reporting we're getting that he wasn't talking to Sean Marks, that he hasn't been as active in pursuing free agents, that apparently before the season, KD would talk to agents all the time about, hey, would your guy come to Brooklyn? Would you want to come here? And all stuff. That apparently isn't happening. Kevin Durant had his et ceteras, the ETCs, as you call it, podcast appearance, and he really didn't say anything. He basically was just like, "We are friends. But it's his money, so I'm not going to get involved," which is very weird. Ultimately, if that was true, because it's your basketball team. How do you assess Kevin Durant's role in all this? Of course, I should also mention the rumors that if Kyrie left, that KD would think about forcing a trade, which who knows where those are from.
I'm generally okay with KD's sort of Switzerland approach to this whole thing. I don't know that there's much he can do from this is the problem with having a pseudo managerial position. It's pseudo when it counts, and when you're approaching Paul Millsap to sign a vet min deal, great, cool, you're a pseudo manager. But in in moments like this, the pseudo part of the moniker drops off well and good, and you kind of just fall into the ranks of being another player. Do I ultimately that's good? That's part of that's part. He understands that part of the role, I guess, because to get involved, it was only just going to muddy the waters, further for either side. So I'm fine that he stepped back in terms of the messaging with negotiation stuff. As far as the leadership thing, I do, whatever, this is kind of woo-woo, but having two leaders on your team, and they seem to kind of defer to each other at certain times and things like that, and they're super best buds. I don't know, it just feels like a weird leadership dynamic in general. So to Glenn Y's other point about stepping up as leader 1A, I don't know what that, we're not in the back office. We're not in this behind the scenes, so we don't know what that actually looks like. But to a certain extent, I kind of agree with that part of it. I would like for there to be a little bit of that hierarchy that seems to already have naturally formed to, be sort of cemented in their minds at least, because this constant like we're two guys who are like leading this team with management, that rhetoric is it ain't it, Mike, as the kids say.
You ready for like some kind of like ESPN talking head like?
Yeah, I mean, this is a whole episode is that, so let's go. Yeah.
It's hard to build leadership if you're not there consistently, and neither Kyrie nor Kevin Durant have really had a consistent run with this team.
Well,
on any
KD
level, right?
has a better excuse. Let's make sure we qualify that.
Yeah, KD has a better. But what I'm still, it's been hard for him to be a leader. You know, he was really involved that first year when he was recovering from his Achilles, and he was really, you know, you would see him on the sidelines talking to guys all the time. Of course, I'd be analyzing when he stood up, and I was like, oh, he's healthy. You know, like I was very.
Yeah, you were very into that.
But he, you know, it's very hard to build leadership and consistency if you're hurt or not playing, or the guy that's also supposed to be helping you lead the team is hurt or not playing, or if you bring in a third star like James Harden, who is a hedonist, right? What did you call him? Like, he's very much like, what is good for me, I will do what's good for me, and you know, sacrifice really isn't part of his bag.
No.
Right? Even though it may look like he's not going to take the full max. So I actually don't really blame Kevin Durant at all. The thing I take away from the fact that he was a little bit more laissez-faire about the Kyrie situation, even though there's rumors out there that he would maybe force a trade if Kyrie left, honestly, I think really what Durant, if that was really the case, then the Nets would have given Kyrie a full max extension. Like, if that was truly the case, I do think Sean Marks or Joe Tsai should have been able to get an answer out of Kevin Durant enough to say, hey, if we play hardball with Kyrie, are you going to stay? And if he said, no, I need Kyrie to be here, he would have been here on a max contract. They would have got anything he wanted.
I'll even double down on this. Like, when these rumors first started, we're pretty confident in our supposition that was the case, that, you know, Marks and Josiah don't even start playing hardball unless they have a pretty good piece of evidence to suggest that KD is not going to just go AWOL the second they start pushing back. Like, for all the people out in Nets Twitter and all that stuff who are like, KD's going to get super triggered and leave, like insta leave. You guys need to, you know, sharpen up your elbows, okay? Because someday you're going to be at the negotiating table, boys, and you gotta have your story straight and your levers to pull. All have that all planned out, because, you know, when you go to war and you play a game of chicken, you can't back out of the last second because riffraff about KD leaving is out in the news. Just a lot of folksy shit. Yeah.
You're like Kendrick Perkins. Like, Kendrick, I love Perk because he'll say like 5 cliches all on top of each other, and none of them are completed. It's all like puzzle pieces to one large cliche.
But I at least say them with my cliche voice, like, sharpen up your elbows. You know? Like I acknowledge it on some level. Yeah.
Because there's 2 different lines of reporting about KD maybe asking for a trade. There's one is that KD would force for a trade. There's another one that KD wanted to see from management what their plan would be if Kyrie left. And I think that was the more accurate one. It was like, Kevin Durant just wanted to hear, like, okay, if we're going to get rid of Kyrie, does that mean we get, you know, Russell Westbrook? I don't want that. Or does it mean we get, I don't know, De'Aaron Fox and Sabonis? I know that was never rumored, but I'm just making up fake stuff, which is the whole point of this podcast, to make up fake stuff. So I think Durant was ultimately going to be okay if Kyrie left, if it meant that this team could still improve. He would not. The reason why, like, the Nets could have taken Russell Westbrook back. Well, Kevin Durant absolutely did not want that.
Yeah.
So, you know, I think there's a middle ground there. I'm okay with Kevin Durant's role in all this. I'm ultimately okay because it worked out. The Nets have Kyrie Irving, Kevin Durant, and Josiah and Ben Simmons potentially playing basketball. So we should be okay on that.
I'll do one more, and this is shout out to Fire Billy King, who actually, you know, started an email called firebillyking@gmail.com. Shout out to, so you can go hit him up there. I think it's an email Should I just dox him? Was that not right?
People, no. People don't want to hear this, but I've talked to Billy King a couple of times. Just a sweet guy.
Yeah,
Just a
great
nice-
guy. I see you guys in the
great
DMs going back and forth. That's
Yeah.
one of Mike's sauces. Just kidding. So this is
One of my sources.
yeah.
Yeah.
Fire Billy King says, with Kyrie opting in, the Nets are expected to have a team salary of $190 million this upcoming season. This is the most expensive. This is more expensive than any roster from last season, and is likely the most expensive roster in the NBA this season. If the Nets were to keep this up, the following seasons. I don't know. The Nets will start to fall into the repeater tax, and Sy will be looking at a loss of hundreds of millions per year. I'm sure Sy isn't happy with the thought of hundreds of millions in losses to have a first-round sweep and the Kyrie headache. Unless this team wins a chip or gets close this year, I think Irving is not extended, and we will see Mark split up next season. Sorry, I don't know why this is so hard.
Have you ever read words before?
Yeah, I know. It's getting... There's like weird spaces and stuff in this one.
Yeah, I know.
The Nets are winners because, one, they have a roster that can compete for a championship this year. Two, they have quality talent to put around Ben Simmons to keep his confidence and value up. Three, Marks gets a year to recalibrate this team to put Nets in best position if they need to blow it up. Irving is a winner because he gets $36 million. Irving is a loser because he lost in a game of chicken. Hey, I just said that. Mike.
So
Yeah.
Yeah.
But do you want to talk about Ben Simmons at all?
I do. This does it good for bad or bad for like what would have been a better situation? Ben Simmons to play with Kyrie and Kevin Durant on a competitor, or to have the team completely blown up around him, but expectations are zero, and he's like he can do whatever he wants on the floor. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's something I'm sure in Ben Simmons where he'd be like, it would be nice if I played on a bad team and I could live in Brooklyn. I put up num-nums, and there's really no pressure on me.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving are going to make his life a lot easier. So are Seth Curry and Joe Harris. Like, that starting lineup potentially,
Yeah.
or, lineup of death, is pretty tasty.
Can I say this too, like just from a podcaster perspective, and in terms of actually when it comes time to talk about basketball at a high level with our giant brains, I'm excited to see the Ben Simmons experiment. It's a lot more fun and interesting of an X factor than running out James Harden for year 3 or whatever and increasingly
Ben
declining.
Is a super fun player if he's not in his head. He is a 6'10" ball handler who could take a rebound off the defensive end and take it all the way to the offensive end. He finds shooters. He's a really dynamic ball handler, passer, big man. Like, he is ultra fun. Like, I joked about it, but during the draft, they compared, I think, Paolo Banchero to Ben Simmons on some level, and they showed Ben Simmons highlights, and I was like, oh yeah, that's why he's special.
Yeah.
Hopefully he plays and his back is good and his mind is right. There's so should we just make a deal where we stop putting qualifiers on?
No,
Because I feel like we could.
The qualifiers are important, because people people rip stuff out of context all the time, and if you don't go back from 5 minutes ago and put some qualifiers on stuff, then you're in trouble out there, Mike. This is new media, baby.
Moment of positivity is this team will remain competitive. I'm not going to say they're a championship contender. I'm not going to do the Chris Mannix thing. No shots at Chris, but it's like they will remain competitive and interesting, and this team will have Kevin Durant, which in and of itself is like just a phenomenal joy. And also, if let's say Ben Simmons is mentally happy with basketball and wants to play, Kyrie could be in and out of the lineup. And if I could just watch Ben Simmons and Kevin Durant, Joe Harris, Seth Curry, and whoever. Nick Claxton, by the way, Windhorst is reporting that Nick Claxton is most likely going to come back. There's not an agreement. There's an understanding, is how he defined it. I'm excited to watch that basketball team.
Yeah, and then pet project, in terms of meshing personalities, I'd love it if Kyrie could, instead of isolating himself, get into a little bit of basketball mentorship role. Get Ben Simmons' confidence back up. Kyrie's a sensational athlete. He's an incredibly confident basketball player. let's have a little bit of that rub off on old Benny. Let's get him. Let's turn him. I know you don't want.
I don't want any Kyrie pixie dust on Benny Simmons. Okay.
I think the confidence pixie dust minus the Illuminati pixie dust, if that's possible, which it may not be, but.
Yeah. So I'll do quick winners and losers. I'll run through loser Kyrie. Duh. Kevin Durant's a winner.
You're just not taking this advice to heart about not dancing on.
He got clowned. He got clowned. He went to Paris to clown school and came out wearing makeup on his face. Losers, all the fake trade maestros. I mean, how much fun could we have had with Kyrie fake trades, Kevin Durant fake trades, Ben Simmons fake trades? We're all losers in that. Can I ask you? I have one question for you.
Okay.
Is Steve Nash a winner or a loser because of this?
Steve Nash is playing soccer. I mean, if we're talking soccer, he's a winner, and that's what he is right now. What Kyrie is to flag football. Like, I don't know what he's doing or what his his vibe is. I'm frankly surprised that he's signed back up for another year of this. But there was like some pretty heavy reporting to begin this offseason that was enough of the of the experience there. So I don't know. What do you make of it?
On one hand, he has a much better team. He has Kyrie, Kevin Durant, and Ben Simmons, ultimately. On the other hand, it's just the expectations are going to be super high. And Steve Nash, he's the guy who's left. Like, even though the negotiation was Joe Tsai and Sean Marks saying, Kyrie, you're just going to get the opt-in, Steve Nash is the guy who has to clean it up.
Yeah.
Like, he's the guy who's going to have to talk to Kyrie every day, keep him motivated or keep his mind sort of focused on the larger team ethic.
Mm-hmm.
It won't be Sean Marks and it won't be Joe Tsai. So it's like Steve Nash is like, I would like to be I would like a nice, calm team.
Yeah.
And he has absolute chaos.
Maybe, and I'm trying to think like, this is, again, dime store psychology. I may as well just stitch it to my head at this point. But on some level, engaging with Kyrie's stuff, going on some Socratic walks, kind of blending their, Steve Nash's enthusiasm for outdoor sports and Kyrie's, just interest in thinking and pontificating and things like that. Let's get a Socratic walk club together on the Nets squad and try to blend this thing, because we got to stack some W's here this season. Like,
I would not want to hear that. I would not.
A Socratic walk club? Come on, Meg.
Kyrie, I would not want to hear that, dude.
You guys are impatient. I should be the coach of this team. Sign me up.
Can we just? I know we didn't really talk about this enough. How weird the thing he texted Shams was that he was out. The announcement it's such an odd statement, man. It's like what are you talking? Well, we have him for another year.
Mike,
and I'll say here,
Mike, the only reason you don't get it is because you're normal, buddy. Sorry, loser.
That's a good way to end the show.
Wait, I want to shout out to some people we didn't get to, because Robbie Rose and Rob O'Grady and Matthew Abramovitz what's that?
We're going to do more podcasts.
Yeah, so a bunch of people emailed us and we couldn't get to. I'm so sorry. Kenny Frank, I'm looking at you. Some Kello, a lot of people. We'll get you next time. Mike, what's our handles and all that? Discord.gg/Glue Guys. Hop in there. That's where all the spiciest takes are, people. If you're not there, you're missing out on unfiltered, uncensored, unhinged Brian takes. That's where I workshop my tweets. And a lot of them hit the cutting room floor, let me tell you, because they're too spicy. And also the link to that is in the YouTube description below and in the Twitter bio, which is @PKGlueGuys. NetsDaily.com is where you can find some of the best Nets coverage in the world. Athletic.com, get behind that paywall. We're going to what's next things are up. We're going to talk about filling out the roster. We're going to talk about Ben Simmons. Howard Dean. We're out of here. Thanks, everybody. Bye.